check.
Hello,当做各区熊的最亚配罗奇熊人了，做干嘛年年的确定的国足也建议了，各区熊的最亚配那罗那天各区中的些了，嘛缺些，那配中的做些了我缺加入些熊人了。tanda de kacho de pardon order tari sonya dos na so la an lenje so ya pegen so pe ro chi xue yin la so tu chi
就是我的最近要我当就是让国家所以有我就是的见就是梦觉的见就是我所以北京就也没到连续年的见不的上街行的每个点不了。如果能在心了就不就一当人，没得了个人都要没人家能接什么的落叶见着点着，也有的梦的我因去见过我的所。
你看这些很大个，人多，给就可以。지금 돌도 송로 돌도 송이야 지금 돌도 송이야 이게 서른 두숨 송제 담 제정오 리던 정그르 잠수 잡다 까르냐메 사위 라마름 보치 샵제 빼모들 드마메 발랑고 랍드 고숨 그 바쳔보 샤서진 잡순죠 도소섬전 담제제 죄신 예람네 개와던 서로 담제도 투자와 전부고 내지수 송원자도 서로 도내원상제 정공 라콘들 수군 가밤에 나소 점정원 봉건 점제송 돈점바 메이수서 노연 천재 워스르 동버 겨왕 천들 점도 많이 단지 접선 초된 신제로 원세릉전에 된 돌제자 몬데시 뭐반타이 다타변종 적점조연 그 주제 이시 돌제라 소반데 오멘 주제 연계 버하나 무슨 손제 근정원이 로선 주고 원선 던제 저वे라메 샤블라 소반데 뭐다 드링기 출시의 강국 코리안 세나 드네 바르도 코리안 드네 다 바르도 시주테 모토 스구마르다 드네 치레 텔라 드네 바르도게 녜치 나루 산삼 다텐데 카시치고 고니 슈주인 다텔라 동보 테네 잉 까다레 젬베 테네 콘데제 나와탐체 테네 바르드네 카브레송 다테나 테네 이젤레 제낭체 옴베 갑수 테네 꼬당 이식 당 랑당 저라 랑당 셔버 주쿠니 세드타 롱고당 주쿠니레 테니 젠제바당 제바 tene chewing topi pardos timingla tene rigdu korbi chorna tamchela mata korbi pardos ta kandar topi ge kunyi tene ta chatela topi pardore rigdu ge tene nawatela mata be pardos ta ngetsik tende song yore
The topic of today's teaching is about the Pardo teaching, and when you're talking about the Pardo, it's the kind of about the intermediate state we're talking about, and when talking about this in the Dzogchen terms, when there's a universal ground, from the basic ground, when then comes the appearance of the grounds, which is called Shinang, and then from there, when that appearance of the ground is not being recognized, then what happens is it becomes delusional, and all the beings being deluded and being in the samsara realms, you know. So in this realm, until we attain enlightenment, that we are in the state of parto.
Ta tene ta nipa ngetse go on de shena te nika yin kata go ngong le jong shin lar kata do par nupro yin bi sherna tene lu jong do go par ne pe chane par do se tende songo yosare tene ta de sumba yewa go on de shena tene par do jir yewa par do truk do yewa tende yong do tene rongjin chenne ji pardo chika dongar ji pardo chuni osar ji pardo sipa le ji pardo se tende jinda wuchi yongudu ta tela yon tene rongjin chenne ji pardo tela non se so yana te something ji pardo malam ji pardo se ta tenzo chenne ji pardo khonsu tokba tende yongudu tene pardo je tru tende ge yewa yore.
So about the categories of pardo, when you categorize it, we can have it either 6 or 4 pardos. When we talk about the 6 pardos, we have this the pardo of this life, and within this pardo of this life, we have this pardo of dreams, and then pardo of the meditative state, and when these added up, then it becomes 6 pardos. This pardo in this life, and pardo of the that's called natural pardo, and then pardo of the moment of death, and then pardo of the dharmata, and the pardo of becoming.
Ta tawa jiba de nonglu dang sansam sukumare ta tende ge gwane sheba yina ta tangbo rangjin jenne ji pardo de ngarong zu serab thoma meba ne tene le dong nyomong ge pacha ge wang ge tene pacha de yasa de yon tene pacha na zu bi kun ji de de ya ti top ji tene ta dan ro ru so so ge le non dongar ngo su che jimba nde namre ten te yimba yang ta pe na chi kongse gur ro ru so so dongar ten do temba nyar jale semchen nyar wa nyar me nyam yida tre shin kombe nyam tun ro chig la chig za nyam me da cho wan thong we nyam lamin tap jing che pe nyam la dang pa me pa ye nyam khor wa khap je che zam ya dewa nam ya yo ma ni song ba ta bu ten de ge ten ne rong jin semchen tham ji khor wa le thar we le do ten tik ba chen bo shong chup cho do tong bo sem je ten ne 디게 제스 때네 온부 림바던 참버 다 소소로는 그때네 냠래 양 덕바지 셰네 때네 시비가 자직 셰고로 시비 자직 티셰야 데라 때네 게네 파르도라 때네 자차 송주고 담밤 때네 티자 송주고 담바 생가리 나올 티자 송도 가리 나올 자차 송도 때티시라 제벌 메니 인사라 때네 오다 돈도 깨완들 론진 게네지 파르도세드 미친 디노라 롱시비 자득 영 더버지 셰네 단단히 다 게와지 체차 나 소보다 건름름 다 조조되니 게름도 조름 다 랍쇼나 데 조바 쳔보 샤자 쳔보라 소보던데 그 냠len 셰네 데니 시두 다 로사가 람라고서 거나 데 딱딱 존에 페나 샤도조 동보 총데 야도 총데라 다 년라 된는 ram라고 노바 용산도 문도 잔 사전사 약사 행동 그 잔다 개바 그 푸는다 된지 직 추거로 대 그런 거 동보 다시 야보지는 단데 야보진도 되는 년가던 처반도 된데 문도 삼나 되네 되나라 총데서 총서 차디 제네 양저 도바 가야 요 말고 태선 매바 총데 난로 되나시 다다 가론 추고 추 양도바지 시발라 펜비 추 양도바지 드럽네 then the Sony Shindoti Tesom Mepa, Yamlin Tit and the Patrotova, Tendichi Guyarita, Tela, Tene, Tija Sanjur Dambas, Yatra Sanjur Dambas, that Tela, Ndo, Nga, that Tendig Chusur Jansu Tawir, Tuzo Tamjela, Tombo 2, Tene Sam, Tene Gom, Tendig to some Gonsum Shirap Jene, Tene that Chichardo, Tene Karasur, Chicharva Tagaina, Tene Menga Samuchu, Tende Nyunguzamla Neto Ne. Tende chene tene nyamlen yang toba chig tene ronsa sembaton tene da rondro toba tende chig o te chegu yore te maje na tene ngaron su tande tsel de la tene temban ta takwa chiga yomer tsela lome namchi chame chichen me tene chiwe che tambi chu chigpo mato yen ten tsenshu pendalo soba kong jo mepemi chuna sel tena yang samne samlo yapo chitone tene shikala ronga ronga jopa mepachi rapshona chivala gagova daka chidru saya jero chivala dropa jeva tetar majona teni chivala ta teni jo mugo pa trago go pa chik teni ngepar to go yare tan te jumsen khare sinna harong zu tanda luten de teni pusum chopa ji yodu ndi tengne teni choyong topa ji drop ne teni ta ndeg ko chopa tan de trola ma shorwa ji te jasi chembo chiwale me trola tene ne dongar chuo chele do tronde shine nya ka be mongba to su ni malu songba tabu tendre ren ten te tar do tene nyamle che gogore.
So first we are talking about the natural pardo of this life. That is, since we were conceived in mother's womb until we death, this is the pardo, natural pardo of this life. And we have been taking births innumerable times from the beginning last time by accumulating all the karma and afflictive emotions. And all this afflictive emotions, karma, and those tendencies has been stored into the storehouse, of the afflictive emotions. From there, we have been, taking lives based on our different kinds of the karma that we have accumulated. As it is said in the Dotemba Nyarsha, this is one of the sutras, that all the different living beings have all these different sufferings. Each of the 6 beings has their own kind of sufferings. So in order to get rid of avoid these sufferings, what we have to do is, first it's very important to cultivate or generate the mind of the bodhicitta, the bodhicitta mind, and from there, once you have that one, so according to your own capacity, according to your own mental capacity or whatever, you should practice, and in this pardo, that's called the pardo of this life, the instructions here is called the sparrow entering the nest. Sometimes it's called sparrow entering the nest, sometimes it's called the birds of prey entering into the nest. What this means is that, birds, when they make the nest, before they make the nest, they really check that, it's a very safe place, and then, by checking and analyzing all the surrounding places, and then once they feel that it's very secure, then they build the nest. And once they build the nest, they don't check anything. They just right away enter the nest without testing anything. In the same way, what we have to do is, while we are alive, we have to make preparations so that, at the time of death, we don't have to be regret that, I have not done anything, or I didn't get the time to do anything, or something like that. We don't have to think about those things. So we have to practice now on, We have to accumulate all the positive actions, 10 virtuous actions, and if you can, those generation stage of meditation, or the completion stage of meditation, or the Mahamudra, or the Dzogchen practices, whatever you can, you should all practice, all those things in preparation for the next step, For the best yogi or the practitioner, when you die, become liberated. At that time, you attain the liberation. At least, if you don't get that one, at least at the moment of death, you should not have any regret of having this life being wasted or anything like that. So that is the at least minimum the state that we should aim for, Otherwise, as Shantideva has said that, we have this very precious human birth, and based on this human body, which is like a ship, we have to cross the ocean of the suffering, ocean of the samsara, So that is that, this right now is the best time. So during this best time, we should not be ignorant and being sleeping in this time.
Ami trogo ne ma tene zonde tama shine ji pojo ra chine de papa de chunje tele tene ronjin kene ji pardos tatere tene ta ni pa chika dongar ji pardos ji te tene ta ngaron chola csepe ta tene ji nasa dupo tende po ne tene kurim shaptem la soba tende rimdo tene kang shepa yena ya ta penton rabo meyon ne tene ta Shivala Pache, then it touch about Tende Kapchigla, then it ngô lo na tong ne ta kang tar chen di ge tene rang ge ta chi cha shin shen be yor tene nyan ro tene khar khong ba sa shin ga la so ba kang na tu zu tham che tene ta o chu ge zan ra bo tong tham na ten de la tong tene lo ta be chi che ne junor te z lang man ra yo ba ten zo yin na yan chu ma jin ten de pong da she tene nyen de ko yo za shi ten zo tham che la yan tene cha jin pong ne tene rong ge ta se shima ge tene ta lama kum chu som la jap jo ne tene ningen song lan ro ma go ba thar wi lam sim ba chi ge ten la tene ta so ba tam ne ten de ge sol la tene sam lo yang yang tang ne ten de che ne tene ta kang se gur bo cha jin pong wa te ha chang ge kar chen bo re song.
So the boundary of this first life, natural birth, part of the natural of this life, natural part of this life is the moment you are born until you are stricken with a fatal disease. Until then, that's the part of this life. And then after that, once you are stricken with the fatal diseases, what happens is, and then it becomes the parto at the moment of death. So at that time, when you were stricken with the fatal diseases, you tried everything, all the different hospital doctors, or even all they went to lamas, doing all the pujas, and none of these helps. And at that point, you are certain, sure and certain that you are going to die. And the most important thing at that time is, you should not have attachment to anything, whether that be your relatives, parents, friends, or that be your wealth or anything, At that time, important thing is, get rid of all your wealth so that you don't have any kind of attached towards it, to offer those towards those, the offerings towards lamas, towards monastery, those things, or, that's the very important thing at this moment of death.
Tene tata ga ngaron so nyebar limbi phongbon de jung ga ne jikten pharo de tene mar ji ne puton ba tar te chipon ro go bi tu tende chi le wong be chena tene ta jiba shiman ro che me shi song wa da chukam song ban ro chang me chi yena dan rig du de tenden ro yo mare lupon de yu go yo de te nam shi de ta sen dam jiba ngoma nam ji ge de loma ten ji le kang so pa ti ge tene jesun ronde namshi lobor do tene ta korom pardu go lamlan robi kapso komcho go tene ramda ta nyeka jela ya kale khapo yore kare se du le de shu chembor ronong go le la tene ro go ba indu le ji go kal choba khona indu tene rongon putsam ya mepa shado long go korwa tar do tene ta chikala tene ta chibi dongar nacha zugzer la sopa tende ta dongar samji mechapa ji yorba te ngaron su ta thamche che charne shegore tene shidu tene ta chibi dongar te nyon nen rogo tene tema ni somra shije na ngema tonzo la tene yon jongban ra che bachan ra ja tene yo marba tema chigma to shije mar te shije me du tene ta zabzab ma je na tene ta kanga chembo yong yores tene ta ti che tene long tripa peken tende la soba ta ne sor mrongwa ne ngemba tende tamne tene ngone shewal to umbi chena kurum shabten ge pento yo mare tene member ge pento sonje mela pe ona pento yo mare tene ngosu chonja tene me pen tab kan yo menye tende ge karse gor ta te on tene kuro le la to unde sukang ge zobji ton to marwa tere tene sepa leje long lo gongin nam bar shibate tene your children the men's megzo mantong la soba tan ta we drama to la soba tende ge tene ta chora tene dukbo chi nyong ge yore chora dukbo te nyong du tene ta ti kap so longan tri pe chele je sen jigling ge tin malam na le yo ba te ten ro tene ta son zen je long de long de tene temba masawa tene temba masar na yang chi khachim ra ja jo andu madu ta tin gari ge chi lakpi cha ga chogan de tre yigan de tre jo andu ta tin che ge do o te che na tane ta kale khapore tane chenju go long ro bi ka so khaze no na ya tukwan da khan malu na ya shurun man ro mando tere ten thurser je long lo pi ka so tane 그 자치 tunzo 탐지 때는 메돈바 쇼르 때는 매념지 롱로 비가서 때는 루지 드 탐지 강반에 종야 타네 드 된데레 때는 찹지 제 롱로 비가서 양라 탐지 신감고 동보터 종러 랭워 차 때는 오통 루지 자 탐지 발라샤네 때는 네바 마르지 타라 롱네 때는 치베 동아르 때는 토도 바비용고 요레 디인두타 된데게 내갑 찍라 때는 다치 제고 삼나에 제야고 고급 요아 말에 두주 정말 셔츠라와 왔더니 던데 많이 바지 고그래 송.
So the second part here, at the moment of death, when the death comes in, then you have to go alone. There's no way that you can take anybody with you. In Tibetan, the example we have that, just like a hair is being pulled out of the butter, you don't pull the butter, that hair only comes out of the butter. In the same way, when we have to die, we die alone. And nobody will come with you help at that time, And after death, if it's like the water being dried up or the fire being extinguished, if something like that, nothing happens after that, then it's okay. We don't have to do anything. But it's not like that, because we have accumulated all the karma, and that karma comes with us, no matter where we go, And even though we may pray to Lama and Buddha and all those things, because of so powerful karma, it's very hard to help at that time, because of the powerful karma that we have accumulated, And we don't have any freedom at that time, just like a feather being blown out by the wind. In the same way, we are blown by our own karma, And so that's why we have to prepare from now on, Once we are born, we have to die, but we die only once. That's why there's no way that, if we've died several times, then we can prepare based on our experiences of the previous one. But during this lifetime, we have to die only once. So there's no way that we can learn from another one, So that's very important that, we have to prepare now itself, so that, during the time of death, we know at least what we are doing, And at the time of death, when the death comes in, because of our own karma, at that time, nothing or nobody can help you. The best doctors won't help you. Even the medicine Buddha himself comes here in our midst. He also will not able to help us, And at that time, all the senses, our senses will becoming kind of diminished. It becomes a kind of fading away, And as it's said in the Pardo Monlam Chengmo that, we have the different kinds of wind energy, within us. So when the life force wind, that's being dissolved, so what happens is, our memory becomes fading away. We don't remember much at the time. Our memory won't work. And when the upward moving wind, that's being dissolved at that time, even though we try to eat, we won't able to eat it, We just throw it out, all the foods that we eat. And it's in same time after that, the downward moving wind, when that's being dissolved, so we become incontinence, We, automatically let out our urine or the excreta. We were not able to control them, And then the next wind, which is the wind of equal fire, when that's being dissolved, our own body's heat, the temperature is going to diminish, go away at that time. And then after that, the all-pervasive wind, that's going to diminish, And like that, when these things happening, so at that time, we are sure that, we are dying at the time, So at that time, we have to prepare now itself so that at that time we can apply those things and we won't be regretting by not doing anything or by not wasting our the whole life.
다 되네 제세 첨부 시간에 송도와 다음에만 난도진도 인식 그게 타고 때 쪽세 파이 저와 다른 직부 용어는 저르세 다 된게 집에 동안 돈 법이 값서 되네 응알 숨부터서 여주 참성을래 나초 사여 버튼서 담지 되네 전 Tene da doa so dikjen rabu shenpan rabu tunzo la tene shinji jebu ngo sun tongwa ga tongnang yongju tende yongju yabu lo ju ngema she tarkanduwa ta tenda yindi tende ke tene tsorwa yongju yore tene nang shata tu nam shi dan jeba tamche tene sachu melong namka namla rinpa jende tamru de tene ngarong su zukbo diga shiwo de chenji kolones 상내 때네 가르고 디 지부 콜로네 상내 버도 콜로가 여러와 때네 상내 대종구 콜로네 존데 야름바 전도 때네 콜로가 여바 디그나라 다 잔두 던데 여레 자인도 바정 소소소소 만다베 디 자인도 바 담제 때네 싱루고레 때네 다 사에 감데 때네 철로 템르도 때네 때바트비 콜로 잔두 던존 징로 송도와 tene ngaron chog nawala shita so lui cheshin mete se ta zukpo de tene jigo chawo da mecho ta bo tende yong do tene nangda so shiba shingmu wang den ro se semyan tene ta temba meba tab tende ta mongorong me shin tende ren do tene sangda so wasar je nawa ta de la dowa mikju marme tende ge nawa charju ba tenzo ren ba jen tene songda mikju ta nawa chargo yore tene chukam mela tembe ninga chuji kolo chandap tunzo she ten sheta so tene kha don na tunzo tamje kam je tamje do ri re kha ji drana drama tam non bu bu do lab de tenda re ju do tere ten nang ta se shipa saz pembun se de tene shipa tembo me pa sarasare tende chu song ta so tene osar ji no wa tutin thik pa ta tende ongor e song tene ta me kam de long la temre be ka so yang rimbi Rumba long chu jing kolo tene zakor tunzo je tene sheta su lu shenong ge tro nam parche tene sho nong ta su tene shipa teso me ba tene karsu truba janjam dendro tene song ta su wasar je no wa meche tabu simbu meche ge tene tabu tende shar ge tene long kam nam shi la them de song ne de chong kolo ge zangkor tunzo shi sheta su tene o ngar ta o 통통 신 렌도도 오강을 지 낭도서 때네 통낭 라면다 다 지금 쳐봐야 어떤 졸네 내만 아주 쳐도는 근데 약보던데 요 근데 연대 제한 매바 대바 당농 첨보다 던전데 있는데 되네 그런 주 우체ren 가들 때네 다 저위라만 제야 근데 연구도 다 대추가 신랍던 소소 대바 당농 된 다리 공도 셰바다 드겐 던졸라네 되네 다 신지 제분 통화동 nganso payin drokpa ga payin ta ralu mombo sha denge shenba yorba tando o tunso trela ne tene ralu ngo tende chembo tende reg ti parula dong wa tende tong do se tende ke ja she ju yore tende ten tonang na so tende yong ge yosare tene tichi du ta tzo yang zo ta gedi ge le le tende jong ge yore tene song da do wasar ji no wa drome ta bu tende shar ti du ta marme ta bu tende shar tene namshi te namkala temre de gongi shipa chikchar dunga ne tene luto me je cha thamche tene sokza le ya de de tene chu chen ro yore
So as Shantideva said in the Bodhicharya Avatara that at the moment of death I'm lying down on the bed surrounded by all the friends and relatives, but the experience of the suffering of death, I alone has to experience that. None of the relatives that's being surrounded, it cannot share those things, So that's why, we have to know that in the suffering of death, and we have to prepare from now itself. So what happens during the time of death is, all the elements, our body is made up of these 5 elements. So these elements will gradually dissolve, At the same time, what happens is, from the crown of our head to the our secret place, the gender, the organ is, there are 5 different chakras there. At the same time, when the elements dissolve, the chakras also dissolve one by one. So first what happens is, the first is the earth element. When the earth element dissolves, at that time, the chakra at the navel, that also dissolves at that time. At that time, then our memory kind of begins to fade away, That's kind of outer signs, and the inner signs, we feel like seeing like some kind of smoky things and those things, and some kind of mirage appearances, and those things happens, And then the water elements, that dissolves, At that time, the channel, the chakra at the heart, that starts to dissolve at the time, And then the third one is the fire element that started to dissolve at that time. The chakras at the throat, that will dissolve at the time. And then comes the wind element at that time, the secret channel at the secret place, that started to dissolve, And then when that started to dissolve, so we kind of see different kind of appearances, different kinds of visions at the time, And for those the people who have very good faith and very good practices at that time, they see their own root guru at that time, But for some of those really, those sinners, people who always engage into non-virtuous activity, especially in our place in Tibet, there were some butchers, who killed all their life, all the goats and sheep and those things. So at the moment of death, they see that the goats and sheep are coming there to butt him, butt the person, to fight with that kind of thing, And then when the consciousness that begin to dissolve, all the five senses that we have, that they will stop working, and at that time the outer breathing stops.
Utati Jesu tene travi terum nangche topsum seji te shargi yore tene te shardu ta keji tongbo la shivo ne tene pali topi kam karbo te tene umilam ne marpa ta ti tsena shitausu tene karkong no ne dashir sharba tarbo tene karlam ji shargi yore tene nangtaksu shedongo tokpa sumchu sosum seji ten kakge yore tene sangtaksu devi nyam tene kye song tene ta kechi nipa la tewa ne mali topi kam marpo te tene umilam ne yar parte one tene yar nyingka la yar yongo yore tudu tene sheta su trime pa namka la tene nida zayi simba tabu malam charga yo songdo tene nangta su ndocha ji tokpa jibchi tunzo tene ngando yo song tene sangwe taksu tene sarve nyam je tene ta kechi sumbala kam karmani nyingala tene nyamdu trenen zombi tsena shitaso tene namka tren dang trawa la somun trikwa tabu nanglam shar nangtaso tamu tokpa tene dönga sangtaso tene metokbe nyamje o ta tene laryon kam karmani ka shevi kapso tene sonzinje long ta longa ga non sonzinje long je yosar te soso torne tene no che de kunjing on to jarro res.
And then once that outer breathing has been stopped, so then we have these experiences of what we call the appearance, increase, and attainment. What happens at that time is now at the time of when we were conceived from the father's semen and mother's blood. And the father's semen and it stays within us at the crown of our head like a white bindu, Now that started to come down, come down through the central channel, When that comes down central channel, at that time, what happens is, 33 different kinds of aggression, those will stop at that time. And inwardly, you have a kind of a blissful experience, And then the red blood cell, reddish bindu that we got from our mother, that stays down at our secret place where the genital organ is. That started to come up through the central channel towards the heart. And at that time, you feel like, really clear sky, without any kind of cloud. That kind of a feeling you have there at that time. 40 different kinds of thoughts of desire will stop at that time. And you have some kind of some experiences of the clear experiences, clear light experiences. And then when these two, the red bindu and white bindu, they meet it at the heart, at that time, you have the experiences, kind of blackish experience, like a blackout kind of thing, their kind of experience. And at that time, 7 different types of the conceptual thoughts about the ignorant, that will stop at that time. And you have the non-conceptual thought kind of experiences arises at that time, And then
올라서 다 되니 뒤에 되니 다다 공도시 비 작동 몽숨 같은 똑반도 어랑진 저치 똑소도 탐지 인스 때문에 되니 다 견섬던 트레비 땡지 남카이야 딱바진도 내루지 요서때 차그레 내루지 요서때 차드 되니 다당아로 주선부 값서 응어도 람그 값서 응어 땡엔진 곰톱지 응어시나 되니 어서 마분데 치세 축구 컴파운드 다 톱서거나 치세 축구 컴파운드 토르세 되니 경무 멜롱 라타바타 담바세 주테레 테네 타타타 ngaronso shagzo ge nyamlen ro zo shene tel nyamlen la ta tongbo ngo shi tene zar zo tene temba toba go wor tende shong song yina tene ta songni tene tata lamje wasar gomtop ge topi ngaronso lo yoje te dang tene je wasar nelu tenye madam puni tene ta chik la tene ngo me she ta non ro tende ge tokpa yo marwa o tenda yinde tene tela tene osar mabun re segre ten counter ta chuku ngo lo ton ro gari chuku ngo lo tor sona tene de chisi chuku tor se jire di pencho ge tene ta chuni pardo ta ten sipa pardo ten kansa tela yong yo mare ta tene tor mathumna tene ta pardo jema to so yong re ta sansam de kanire se de dari kondo shepa ta 신내게 답네 되니 이제 와서 charmasong ko partela tene ta chiga pardo se yore.
So at that time, 80 kinds of different conceptual thoughts, all this will be stopped at that time. And then, the ground luminosity will start to dawn at that time, So if you, when you are alive, if you're trained and experienced about the meditation, about the path luminosity, what we call path luminosity, So once we are very much trained in the path luminosity, the ground luminosity at this time when it dawns, so you right away recognize that ground luminosity, What we call here is, just like meeting the son and the mother. The path luminosity that we practice now is called the son or the child luminosity, and the ground luminosity is called the mother luminosity. So there is no way of not recognizing this one once you are trained in this one while you are alive, And here at this moment of death, here, this part, this kind of instructions or pit instruction is called the Gyagmo Melon Tawa. That is like a beautiful woman looking in a mirror, that's kind of this instruction is called, And if you are able to recognize that ground luminosity, and at that moment you will be liberated. You will be enlightened in the form of the Dharmakaya, And for such a person who recognizes this ground luminosity, there won't be any further parthos because you will be liberated. You will be enlightened at this moment in the form of the Dharmakaya.
다 텐데 인도 텐데 다 sombu kapna tene o tusam gomsum ge tene nyamle yang takpa chigla tene tene ta shagzo ge tengen zen la nyamnyo yang takpa chi yopa chene tene nyambra ya tende chene shongwa yena tene shidu samjur zongbo te lamdo long tende rowa yena tene ta 가르치고 치시 축구 들어와서 지도 연구하러 때 좀된데 진도래 남키 닝보 상주 선바 치비 전다가 이시 공부를 하고서 나로서 여러분도 가서 지와 쇼핑도 정보 줘봐도 공빈도 나가 이시 어때네 어때라 소파가 근데 송원은 신 나가 이시 써야 돼 되네 다 포와가 존다고 찍다 너 감네서 그 말에 다 특징이 냠는 감네 tende jing sare te sanga kamne da phowa mixer ge yorwa tene chu tamje rongjin je number tawpe na ngopo me bin du shi gombar shawo chu tamje shongchip je samsun de pe na ningje chembun du shi gombar shawo chu tamje rongjin je memik shin wo sarbe na ngopo che yo ngopo che la ya ma cha bin du shi rab do gombar shawo sem to na yi shi yembe na songje yendo me zur bin du shi che bra shawo she songba tar chike pardo gemo la nyen temba gemo la melon la tawa tabu te konani rikton songju go tengen zen gomba la bepa chedon de jepra shawo son tati zo ngaron tsuk ta nyamleng ge ningbo ro te tene zo ta ngaron zu kaning ge tene chue shengen je na shaje chembo don zokwa chembo don zo ro ta donzo ge nyamlen te tene rong la deng tsupa je yo son na tene tachiga pardola tene kawa mepa beba mepa tene tortu gu yore tene tesong gu yore.
So the limit of this pardo is at the time of death. Pardo of death is once you are stricken with this fatal disease until the ground luminosity dawns. Until that time is called the pardo of the moment of death. And while you are alive, it's very important to do the study, contemplation, and meditation on the Mahamudra and the Dzogpa Chembo, And at the moment of death, it's very important to have a connecting things to your practice and at the time of death, so that you would recognize those luminosity or those instructions at the moment of death. And it's also being instructed in the sutra too, Or we usually have these 5 great sutras, and then this sutra that I'm referred to here is called the sutra at the moment of death. This is akin to the Poa practice in Vajrayana practices. In the Poa is only in the Vajrayana practice, right? So here in this sutra is very much like a Poa practice there, And so if you are practicing in the Kagyu and Nyingma tradition, then you should be practicing the Mahamudra and the Dzogchen tradition. And at the moment of death, then you should be remembering those practices, applying those practices, so that you will be liberated and enlightened at this moment of death.
Otasumba chunyi pardore, teni tormatumna te chunyi pardo charge yoare, ten chunyi pardola, no samche, onge rondon, tene karser marjon rota kato. Anga tene mandre bar chawata, ta nanjur pag tene nyamlen yonken, ta nyamnyon yonken china te, tene ishi je rondo do ngo sene, kechi tomboro tene, rondo do ngo shi ichi, nipala tene ronsar tor, kechi sumbala torto ne tensa sene, o tende chene tene, ta song je se goni na tene ta tende ke tarba top se gona tende rendu re song re. Ta te ma jong na tin juk to do tene samten ji sha nga se ya jindo samten ji sha nga la tene songju shitu chombu tun zo char ge yor ramba jong de tene sha tongbo lo number non ze ni pa lo dor je semba sumba lo ren chen jong ne je ba lo no an tai nga wa lo ton yu tu ba na tene ringe chombu tun je ba char ti je so tene dra wo ser sum tene len chi do chang dong chu wu la zo chang dong ap ju zab je yor ba ringe chombu tun je ba tene nam kha par no ko yu tham che tene cha par cha ba per na ta shi tu no nyamlen da damba tun zu no lo song ba na shen re tene cha rong go re tu tu tene rong no tu yi che pe tene ke chig la tene ngo shi so na na tene ya ma pon pun ju ta bu tene tro tu gu ya re.
Now, the third pardo is called the pardo of the reality, or the pardo of the dharmata. At that time, you have different kind of visions of different colors. Usually it's called 5 different colors of visions at that time. It will dawn upon you. So once you recognize those visions, that's none other than one's own kind of energy comes display, one's own ripples display at the time. If you right away recognize at the first instance that that's none other than one's own appearances, and at the second instant you will liberate it, and the third instance you will have the stability in that recognition. So what happens is at that time you will get liberation. Whether you call it a liberation or attain and complete enlightenment, that happens at that time, And then in the instruction it says that you have to go through the 5 days So here days is not the day of 24 hours, something like that. Here the day is the length of your meditation, that day, and then all the different kinds of peaceful and wrathful deities appearances will appear, like the Vairocana Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Vajrasattva, and all those will appear, those things. And also the sounds and the lights and the rays, all those started to appear. And at that time, if you recognize that these appearances are none other than one's own appearances, one reflection of one's own appearances, then at this point also, just like the mother and son luminosity meet each other and get liberated, you will also be liberated at this time.
Tachike to Chihuahua Sarkata Chukurame, Padu Noncha Lonshu Zoko to Trecho Togar Lamji Zanjone, Mapon Punju Tabu Trosho, Setin in Jiggling the Sonyopa, Tetabure. Teni Tin Jukto, Sotini Ishi Georgia Noah, Ongin Downtown Jepa, Number Jan Watabu, Tigle Tintan Jepa, and Megla Soup. Teni Jo Sukwatar, Tene Chervi, Ketchigla, Ronan, Dongoshi, Natur Tugayore. Tene Tama Tama Tela, Tene, Janon Lundu Noah, Rimjin Charte, Tene Tela, Detara, Tatela Karzigurgo. Game Tuje the Charva Simchen La Ningji Chembu, Zorme do Jong. Sata water Charva Yishinga, Tene Rondon, Jatsun Travajan do Jong. The number Metopi Yishita Charva Conde Jichu Konla Zongin Jeteso Mepar Ne. Non la Ranjin Matrupi, Kutra Charva Shitu Lasso, Richungu Sombodon Jepa, Tongo. Konde Nime Dar Sharva, Dene Tapa, Arono Yishijian Kolo Sepatar, Joro. Yazon Tatar Dar Sharva, Lundu Yishijian Kolo, Tripa Tamjet and Travel Nangos. Tapa Yishiji, Gotar Sharva, Kadak Nelu, Namkatabu Nando Net. Mada Kurbi Gotar Sharva, Ritu Nuchi Jikten Tamje, Mande Par Nangos, Tandela Tene, Tendiga Karsagurgo. Tendega Noah Shargo Yosare, Tante Tere, Tene, the Yenche, Tene, the Ronon to Moshipi Murnela, Tandela Lundub Gojeg, Tene Sharvas, Tende Songoyer, the Yenche, Tene, Ronon to Moshipi Murnela, Sonje Lonjo Zobi Kurtron and Rodon Namkatanyamba Jong Oson, Tatene, Sansam de Congress and no chene was charging Lundub Noah de Charne, Yervi parte latene, ta Teresa Sipapardo de Caringo di Chuni Pardo de Resonre.
As it is said by Jigme Lingpa in his prayer that may I able to practice the child luminosity at this lifetime, and at the time of death, when you're going through this parto, when the ground luminosity dawns, may I be able to recognize that and able to liberate it, just like a child entering into the mother's lap, In this one, and after that, what happens is, we have the experiences of the 4 different kind of wisdoms, and you have all the bindus, those spheres and the small bindus and different kinds of those things. And it's very important at that time to recognize those appearances as none other than one's own appearances, And then the 8 doors of the spontaneous presence. That's dawning upon us at that time, And at that time, if we recognize those all the 8 doors of the spontaneous presence as none other than one's own appearances, then one will be able to liberate it, and at that time you will liberate it in the state of the Sambhogakaya Buddha, and you will have the enlightened activities, equal to the space, which means, you have infinite kind of the activities you're able to do that. So this parto, the natural, this parto of dharmata, starts when the inner breathing stops until these 8 doors of the spontaneous presence dawns upon us.
Ta tene jiva sipa pardore, sipa leji pardo sejite, ta te ombu rimbadan tama karsalgo ombu rimji padan te tamar pa namla pardo ngama tanzola tene troje tene tseme zorimji tengen zenla temba matupjin pakcha wang zembe laryang sipar ningsam jorwa yen songde ta kantar te pardo ngama tela tene ta nyamleng deng chupi tengne rangsa sin tro matupa yena tene 다 제와 심한 거 주고 용거를 제와 심한 거 주고 받을 스바 받도 세그래 되네 농루지 바차 되네 이길루지 명신도비 봉보 저라 동아르지 랑진 작도 검섬지 나르바 온보 근 창신 데 마이 나던 도제데 마토 베르다 콘침라 소파 탐제라 토메도 주베 레지 줌트르 노와 데 파미 주진지 감동 메덴 비세 두두 당한솔라 tene lu ngoma yomare shata ge lu de pong sarwa chirtang lu la doche shata ge lu tori tengen zenji lu tene pardo yi ji lu wasar hlai lu se tene lu yewa mongbo yor dinan ta tanda tengan so pardo ge lu re de du shata me pa la tene nima dan dawe no de me sung do rong ge lu le tene le ji wang ge wo yame wa shi jong wa tene kyalam chol cham se ta chi ngaron so sa re mar da nam se ma se le ram rik sa yong do ten ro chi yo re sung ta pardo chamde no ta sepa pardo le no ten de shar re sung tene zugom shata me de sama sa gu mar te nga zo nyer den de shin ro de sor tong do te se su tene tre sa yin rin tuen pardo sem je rin tuen lam mi ta pin thong so ngom ban zo ten zo no song wa na yin tene ta pardo koron so go sem chen so go koron so go ta pardo yemba den zo tene 다 정말 동거요 미시데 가시까지 던데 동거서라 맥게 되네 문시지 통신세 다 맥스데 타양 주고 메데 맥 오마치다 요 마르데 이나야 다 던데 이지 루체인도 타코 던데 지게 이게 되네 셈게 다 지금 맥라고 던데 지요 인사를 던데 지게 통거 인사를 랭가 년저 남지 서로 원와나세 다 나롱 그니 년저 던조 자로 용 대다가 되네 ngaron ko par thong go yore konsu su thong go yomare tenzola ta chi ngo ten tham ten de sheba yena yo ngaron sogen chi kan thong go yomare tedi tai yalen shege mendo samne hing la cherma su ko ta bu ten de dongar zola me pa nyong she teni chiwa yena mayina ta nga she insare mare sam teni chumi ta shema lo so pa ten de no lo chumi no lo ma shenge do mendo sheme ten lo kongjen do mendo ten de ta teni 다 주면 나라 죽고 메도 생로지 요 말로 추된라 되네 공지 셔말 되온지 말 된된 저 시와심 다 셔도 삼네 되네 이제네 되네 장난던 징난 되네 빠도 메바제네 되네 디에던라 된 종 가서 동ар 빠도 메바 다 파르도 동ar 지요르바 된데 된데 되네 동ar 빠도 메바다 다 되네 야 지금 영절 지금 먹을 루텐 더버지 토버요 메용 삼 남시대 그 루텐 촐네 제마로 냠비 되네 찍바가 포우다 되네 다 응갈돔 라서바 된데레 땡 차양 되네 개직 잠레 도움 메바 코 남시대 되네 롱거 샤도 퍼반다 롱 메버 샤도 롱거 데바진데 되네 다 셈지스 다 단단들 로와라 신조진로 이지진로와 당 가서 인조건로와 신지진로와서 된데 예주요레 인조건로와서 이제 빼나간서 단단데 돌제된 러브치라 되네 초된 러브치 삼로 땅에나 nganso relno rogo yon namrno rogo temen rosayo mrio te pa pardu semjen resan doje den samchan doje den lepsar tele teni yinjo gondro was de samlo tongwa samji lemro wa tende ge teni ta tende indu tengen ro kanan ro kar sheyo na ta ti saja thamje ten kor jap tenen rogo yor o tende chene astamma tha do teni yanla changum samji yon la sachu me be sho jarkab korn tenden rogo yorta ro thugo yorta korong karsu nyuche ndobde tendere tene sachu maybe short tendere teso cheyo me par chambe yi ne cho zancho putu tren trape chima tru ngugo yona ya tene thukbi thamne yo mare konsun chu thong yo mare tene kyabdong gon tong pongne tong ro tong ramda soyo me tene luende tene koranga ta chi nangwan ro joro te pe tene nyam thapo chobo ta nganjo tene nepa ta tene ta shilaka nepa shilaka ro tende ge tene ka su zoptan ro tende koron tende chorwa yong yo re song le te ndu tene ngar le lapi rikpa donjur do sarwa ta se ta yon 샘데 고 녜말레 dunjurgo tene trongbo tene soma shingen ha kongge tende che rendogo yore de rendodo tene luten ngama torjin shima mathope tene semde tene pe kyo thangche tende che o tene ta te chamdo maze ta ngarong chu te pardu kabla lama chupa tende ge tene chogan ra tong chunde tende shebe kapso tene ta tunzo ge samban number mata pa tong tene chi kangse gore ta tende ge tene 신치카가 섬로 코르데네 데코 응원시게 시거로 코릭바 돈줄고 존로데 온데소가 타르발란 얀 랭켄 얀 삼바 카바 코론존네 동든데 탑교버렌도 삼네 lokta 디기 켄세네 냐르발라 롱 던데 레기 요르스 던데 송도 오 던데 셰온데 테네 다 오 루텐 가마 torji shema mato betene yethong chebe kaptenala tene pardo she ngama se ta dorna pardo ngaron su nima jipchu shegu tela te ngansu ta di karse guru gongsik de zongo yorwa gongsik de zongdu ta pardo she ngama se de nima nishu tsakji mare pardo ten shinrongeng ge semchen de korong dati luinde ge nawa shago yore tene nima nishu tsakji re chane jewa shema kar lenjo na 다 치료 랭거나 트리우글리 랭거나 야나 멜론다 탑자 렌토거나 강 랭거나 디 나와데 샤거 다데 나와데 드니 옌로거 어때 인도 시행함이 루텐지 나와다 시치미 루텐지 드니 char난던데 용거레스 다 대야 요령통 예바 요거 문도 가르네 샤 되네 드니 다 루이점바 톱로거서 가르레 샤마 니르친 거거서 드니 신도 랭나야 샤 입주 짜고 드니 파돌 내게 요레손
So once you are not able to get liberated at the second state, which is into the state of Sambhogakaya, then the next pardo dawns upon us. So that is called the pardo of the becoming. So at that time now, we are trying to get into the next life, moving on, And normally when talking about those, with the high mental capacity, those of best, those will be liberated into the first, and then the medium will liberate into the second state, and the least will be here now in this pardo of the becoming, And so, and here at this pardo, there is no sun or moon. So one's own body has some kind of light, just like, early morning, in the dawning time, just like that, where we able to see, kind of hazy kind of thing, not very bright. So in this pardo, it's like that, because there is no sun or moon. One's own body has this kind of, some kind of a light coming out from there. And since you don't have any body, you don't eat food at that time. That's why, we offer sur practices, those scent offering, burning of food, and offering to the pardo beings, because they don't really have any body and they don't eat it. So, but somehow they can smell and get satisfaction by having this sur offering to them, And as said in the Abhidharma Kosha Karika that, those beings within the pardo states, they can also able to see each other in that state, But the others, the people who right now we are not able to see those pardo beings, but the pardo beings whose people died, they're able to see us, And then they also have some kind of a clairvoyance, and their mind is much more brighter than while they are alive. It's said that it's 7 times more brighter than when they are alive. So they are kind of able to see and able to people there and able to also, because of the so bright mind they have, they're able to see what they know, what we are thinking about and what we are doing their thing, And since we don't see them, they feel like they're being ignored, And they really having a lot of suffering at that time, and then they become to doubt whether they are alive or dead. So far, they don't know that they're dead, that person at that time, So at this stage, they're doubting that whether they're really alive or dead, and to check themselves, they walk on the sand to see whether any footprints are left behind, or to go into the water to see whether they're being submerged. And once they know that they don't have any footprints left behind or they don't submerge, then they realize that they are dead at that time. And then at that time, they have huge kind of a terror, feeling at that time. And also suffering that they are no longer alive and those things, And since they don't have any body, but we call them kind of a, mental body or something like that, And they able to see when they means, they don't have body, so obviously they won't have any eyes, but somehow they are able to see, kind of thing, And they also can travel swiftly wherever they want to or whenever or whatever they think of it, For example, if we have to go from here to Bodh Gaya, so we have to book a flight or a train or a bus or something, have to go there. But for the Pardo beings, just being thinking of Bodh Gaya or just being thinking of any place, they will be at that place instantly, And the Pardo beings will be there, up to 21 days, they have the feeling and experiences of the previous or the present life, whatever we call, And after 21 days, then wherever they're going to born, whether they're being born as a dog or as a human being, that kind of experiences started to dawn after the 21 days, And the state, the length of stay in the Pardo states depends on the individual. They said that the least will be 7 days and the most will be 49 days. No matter what, that's the maximum the length people or the beings stay in that Pardo state.
Tene tambicho ngomba luktar de shena parsi trup sene tene para dokwa tene tabyo mare songor de ina yanta tikwa chembo sanga de tene jena me bi chechu yoba in the pen tanchi na yo mamon tamon kawa me ba dongbo nombo won shi ben haji tikwa chebar pa songro tene ge chechu mombo yobi jumsen le tene sanga ji jon le tap don tender tan ta choga dan tene ge tene na chokba la tene parsi trup senayang tene parsi trup semba chamdo maze tene ngensong chamdo long semba yinayang tene ta tende ge sanga ge tapdong ten temde samol tene ya tharbala chongju ba tende song yore tan dorna sansam khang ser lundrup ji nawa chi tar lundrup goje ge nawa chor ten nop te tene malam tar mai ngal do sene ami khopala ten trza sidu ta pardu ge namshi tere trza nyawer lembi namshi ami kokpanale ya shukwa tsunche tel tene sepa pardo sigre son. Teta sepa pardo la tene kembe tene semchen namla tene tata ngaron tsoge pardo chamdebi kapso tene njikpe draje ya ngawe yongsa sum tene mangepe ta chula sopa tene ge njik ta chono go nawa o tene ta relo umba tabu jamso shiro umba tabu tene ge tene dra karmar tene napi yangsa somla soba tende yo sondo tende ge pe trawnang tong tene shenong soba tende yonggo yore donga zola me pa narwan jola se chete koncho somla chapsu ndroni chamro sheba tong tene rong tata sombu kabla tene pene shitro ndro ta tende nyamlen shenghen yina tene shitro laso metsetel gom de sangni sipa pardu kabla tene shivel haso sharong de shiwa ngo shijire trovel haso sharong de tene true lazo ngoshi jire ta tende ge tene nyamlen tembo don sebo yongge te ta parchi kani kapo yin ro re ni re sama te mena yo ta sombu ne kabla ta shitru ge shak chung ro don pakcha rong ro tende kanden shin ne yakun de na tene ta chu ge shin lab don kom chu ge tukje se ju te re na ti ge tene ta songni shidu jeche ja tamba tene ta pendo chembo yongge re tende de tenzo ten ta ne samlo tang goji te kal chembo re tende ronge yedam gala ta chi tamre na ndra shagdori na ndra ta tende ge yedam gala chigla tene ndumba tembo tene yapo ji drop de na tene yedam je la tig tene ta songni pardo lo to tene ta allama ta yedam ge tene kyob ge yo song do tene kyobra shepa la tene tata ne godrik ta yiche ta teba ge tene lamnyan nyamle she gor ma to su chirba ge tene 카그치 다 대바당 이치세네 단 돈반 되나야 다 nganzu tambe jora hinga shokje hinga kalu shugu ge jarjana longja de pata se de tene tenden rabun domban de pento mebada mare sonji ge chusi judes tene samji mecha be shelab chembore pento yojere den pento chemboji yongge yo mare tene gese shevale sondo deju tone ka tu yiren chizu je ja semye enwe chebane tenye rugbe teme sonse tenda song yodu sem mayeng ba chik tengne tene shego gore te sheba yena tene ta pento chembo yongge yore techi de tende ge tene tata ne zabzab chi che tende che de ba yena tene sangni ta tenshen gal tuk bi tu chi wong song do te tenshen gal tuk bi tu de ta tu du tene ta ko choba chik dang tene ta pento ba chik yongge yore tene te indu 단단에 되네 라마 게비 신년라 소발라 되네 다 소소 강 대바여나 다 서로 풀쭉서 답네 되네 된대지 셰토바예나 되네 성이 다 스파 파르도 값스 유라 건차라 와츠버타부 담바스도 ngaron수 추죽사 그 유라 데 끼네 다 뎁데여나 되나 라용 지 행러부 된데 서버지 텔레 렘본러부 잡네 되니 마춘 로초조 조지어로 어때 텐러부 tendichi yongre seta tene tendege nyamle yore sonre tene zombu leje tro tu ne tene yakwachi shona tene ta uso tene ta omin chuyenge shingam sharngombre gebe shingam lo pardon dembe shingam nub dewa chinji shingam shon lerab zobe shingam tete ringi shingam la sokba ta tende tetar menayang tene sachi shingam ngurumbuchi yugbene lonu ngaya parjire tene sondo pari podon la sobata tende la tene soso ge ta le dang molam domba dang tene pacha dang tene nyamlen dang ta tendo le tene tene ke thoba tende yongres domba tse chik du tepe ta tende ge tene shingam yila sheba dang shingam gom maji ta thonda dodo shena gom go yare gom rodu tene ko gom비게 견래 곰 세야 돼 된다 째르스는 곰 고고요래 빼나 마치 그 부지요나 다 아마도 버테니 그런 건 드레바 빼 흉침보 여바데 아마데게 되네 론두 사냐 셜람 가르셔야 되나 때 버트 트렌드 그러와 어때 너신지 되네 라마 곰나 안다 예담 곰나 안다 아미 버템바 너신지 곰 톱나 되네 제체 자 담바다 되게 되네 다시도 펜도 용거말 용거래 te mato bi churba ge tene ta tari shepa tar tene ta kha cham ge shibu shibu phendo yo ya kal khapore tunzo pe nenga chembore tunzo semlen jogore ta tende yen.
In the sutra, like Abhidharma Kosha, it says that once you are into this part of the becoming, there's nothing can be stopped or nothing can be done at that time. You are already into this stream. But in the Vajrayana, because it says that the Vajrayana is much more superior than the Sutrayana, we have different methods in the Vajrayana. So even if we are born into the part of the becoming, or even if we are born into the lower realms, there is a way, that we can be in the, liberated from that state also, So this part of becoming starts after the 8 doors of the spontaneous presence has been dissolved and till we enter into the mother's womb for the next birth, between this time, this part of becoming, exists during that time, And at that time, we have lots of suffering and terror and all those things, And the only things that can help us is the 3 jewels, and by taking refuge in 3 jewels, and by praying and doing the practices of Shito, the peaceful and wrathful practices. If you are good at these practices and being trained in these practices, that will really help you at this point, at this state, But there may be very few people who really does that. Even if you are not fully trained into all these things, if you do the confession of the Shito, confession prayer, or if you are reciting the prayer of the the natural liberation of the habitual tendency, the pakcha rangdrol, those will really help you at this moment of death, And whatever your yidam deity may be, if that be Hayagriva or that be Vajrapani, whatever, if you do the practices, with the one-pointed mind, and those things will help at this time. Otherwise, if it's just like a paper being pasted on a pillar, the wind will blow and then the paper will make sound, just like that. If you don't really think about it, contemplate it, just read the prayer, it's just like that, And so at that, whatever you have faith in, whichever Lama, whatever Vedam practice you have faith in, you have to have full 100% in devotion in that one and do the practice, and this will help. So here at the Pardo of this becoming, the instruction is called like repairing the broken water pipe, When the water pipe is broken, water will leak out, right? So at that time, you have to do the prayer and practice at that time. This will kind of connect to that one. So it's just like a repairing water pipe, And then you're able to be born into the pure realm about any of the 5 Buddha families. The Buddha families and the East, West, South, all those have their own Buddha fields. So even if we are not able to be born into those Buddha fields, we may be able to born into the Buddha field of the Sangdopari, the copper-colored mountain, if you really play for Guru Rinpoche, So what the main point here in doing here is, you have to familiarize it while we are alive, The meditation, what we call meditation, is nothing but the familiarization of it, When we do familiar again and again to get the more familiarity with this, that's what called the meditation is. So at that time, then it should be just like mother has only child, When the mother has only one child, whatever happens to the mother, whether mother eats, drinks, or sleeps, whatever, she always remembers of her child. In the same way, whatever we do, we always think about the Lama and the deity practices. With that kind of practices, at this moment of death, it will be 100% be sure that can be helped at this time.
Tunzo yena yang tene tepa number takpa chik yoba tong tamsik la ngoko menken o tende chik yena teyong ten ko ngargo ngenpa tene do ne tanjur je milu top ching kiwa trukur ne jirwa tende ke tene ta karse kurgo kokap tong tene penyon tende yungu yore ta tepa tong tamsik se jute yakpo chi song tumna tende ke tene penyon chenpo yungu yore se tene ta te mayin be yanda Mutsen del sombo de Bicabla, Game, Digme, Chu Gevala, Nishan Lapton, Pento, Yore, Sambe, Samlo Menke, Digba Megeva Shen, Tig, Dongar Yongre, Sambigatene, Samlo Mengenta, Lalo Rabotan Tene, Karsegurgo, Tanko Goyona Nepegatene, Metabata, Tende, then Gejorg Japten, Kanyon Menke, Tene, Yana. Tene le jonde tan tene komcho tan tende la tene yiche tan tene samlo menke tso la khan segre tene yang tapi tawa tan meden pa segre yang tapi tawa tan meden pa tel lamna ne tene ta tamche la rosa lam chigre tem chigre hinji chu gerbu kunde ne tene ndramda la ngo chechong tan ten jikten kham tene yo ju tramsum ndramda che jor ngobde trap jor tende trapsa ji chawa ni yo marwa lar leji wong tene roa ru khong che tene le langsing tene mekombe neso tene longte dongar tene ta yo rungbo kormo yug tene nyongya tene nyenga yore tene du ta tendo merebe tabla tene zabzab chikche ate tene hachang kalchembore ti indu ta tari tanjur ji milu rumbo che ta tanjur chobje don sambi milu rumbo che toba namde tene taga sabji jursa Jurban Rabochik, Tani, Yindu, Tari, Lutin, Ditane, Tane, Gedrup de Ponchik, Yang Tapaja Cheneta, Neluguton, Kong to Chupa, Tanaja Neluguton, talk with Tap Chigla, Tane, zun topna tene ta rongrin rongla chewa re mato su churbege tene tende je majong ba yena ta shimagong ken sume shitsarni zonde pardo lamdram mugong ken ta ni yore te suresena nyamlen deng top denge nyamlen le temba top denge chena deni mek choma thado tene ta tharwa top ro yore rab tene ta chuku tene kompon drink pardo lungu kompon ten tamatruku ta tende ke valen thoyaji temene shinkam le che thoyaji gore ota te mai pag tene ta chik de congress na passe padam masse padam sonjin ji ko la tranjimba tene da karse gurgo tende ge tene la sopi ge tene chamenga ge le sa yang jorwa tel chame se de karse na deni kevan de shinrudu 디기 깨와 시만이 바로라 참 좋은 게 바로도 요 말에 바로도 메디 데니 좀 타도 맨날 녀발다 간나 자녀 자녀 그건 로고 데날 랩사를 텔레든 참메 빌레스기어 어따 데니 마도 수처바 데네다 디 젬바 탐제다 바로도 렘문로는 로사가 탑자와니네 요 말에 디치두다 나론소 남주 데네 라마소 송고도 왕원라보던 텐트리도다 나 마제덴디 신촌 여러분들 때문에 세종 던져 경호부 던져 걸을 때는 다 양로 만두 산삼 다가 섭지 줄사에서 파트룸 붙여게 디나올 텐데 송요래 두두 대 당원의 양로 만두 산삼도 다가 섭지 줄산 여러분들 강에서나 단단 데레마도 경호부 걸을 때는 원거리 두세 때는 시차래서 가통은 그룹을 송도 천정 걸라 원그르 제자 치스 다들 시차 레송을 두전 로차 레송을 어떤데 많이 받지 되네 고기 요래 되네 대다도 되네 다 성마가 되네 다 잡잡체 그래 첸들라지 때지 다 강이나야 나롱수 남주인 직된 게 담벨로 요완노지 추게반 로ጆ르 두ጆ르 딕바 카조르 라조르 세베페 tendige tenge tene rondrin rongla chebe tene tapshi che tobna tene pe yabore tene de pardo go sindri de tene nganzu chodo ngari kembo chawang ringzen songya jor khong songdo tene de tabde wo yapoji do mato tene ngando chi shibu tende ge che yonten yonke ge me mare nge chi shige me tene da kasabdar dobdar chen mombuji shen tene tanda hira che mendu ta khong ro che ngone da 정부 시에 자갈 법이요 공도부 개발 요지 말에 등성 든지래 이나요 때네 다 미신겐 저거 간주 트레든 저거 차베치벤도 시엔로 되고 신겐 저 카좀 되되도 간주 록발 담베죠래 부바오 검사 나올래요 선nom보 고숍 나올래요 세르다 원에 든조 공 넘버 든레 데 공 넘버 시란 로든도 든 넘게면도 어디치든데 빼다 답대본도 저래 녜데 체 넘버 때다 펜토나서 가론수 추체로 정말라 되니지 된데 쉬바이 되니처당 바르도 시준디 거데 가론수 넘버 손지 베게 쳐 나올마도 젬바 시를 빼더네 다 힌두당 카체세 안다 예수세 안다 된데 나올라 파체 예수도 카체라데 요말데 힌두라야 지 녀반다 요건도 마도 바르도가 남자지 요사 말에 어떻게 됐는데 배 젠더 만다와지 레다 ndzo gar ha ko gorsna sonje sejute tamje chemba yemba de ha ko yore sonje tene mande kone ta sonje gende songro te dari nge shibana je nganzo tema niresumre shijo yoneda ngaron so ngange ma shidu endre reson tendre reson niba shidu endre reson 다 숨바 시도 잡잡체 텐데 간요만 테마직 마도 시주면도 이는 손제게 되네 손부갑라 간데 요래 제바 제마 간데 랭게 요래 디파루로 파도 간데 소마 켄네 되네 송 여바인데 다디 옌더 만도 치치지레 어때 되네 다 ngaron sugu chede za chemba imba maji ngege karse gurugota o tenyin bala tense sarbo goya de mendu de inayon ta tenso ngaron sugu ngone nganzu chede mandra jere samji mecha pa jere za chen re samne ta chia soda gemba soda yiche yore sosu pa amnye la soba tesu june nganzu nomba songje pa indu chikta marshie de batende yor ta lonyon de sogo tene shira ha ko mara ha mugo de ngone ta tende nombi chede la mandra za chen ji yo targe do sam chen tene yapore tene tende jen ten sangma tene tsendala sambi tönruba tambi chu tene ta kangla kangsam drumne tene chiwe kapso tene karsiguru ta tarwa tamchi chembi kombonji matab na shingam la soba tende le ke toya ga tene nge molam tabgu sangma la ten tukji che trashi dela.
So if you are a very good practitioner, you can able to have all these things, opportunities so that you can get liberated and enlightened during this Partho state in the first, second, third. And even if you haven't done any kind of practice, even if you're the worst of the practitioners, but if you have a faith and devotion and kept the Samaya vows purely, that will also help you to be born into a human again with the 18 qualities of human birth, able to help and those things. But there may be some people who don't believe in the law of karma and who don't want to accumulate any kind of virtuous deeds and who always being, and engaged into the non-virtuous thing. For those people, then, there's no way other than to be born into the lower realms, For those people, what we call, devoid of the pure view, those people, what we call is the devoid of pure view. So those people, or think that there's no law of causality, there's no three jewels and all those things. But at the time of death, when death comes, when you are going through these things, you cannot deceive the things here. So you will be born, or you have to go through whatever karma that you've accumulated, So, and then, you will be born into this state where there is no Buddha Dharma at all, or worst, even you will be born in the three royal realms. So that's why it's very important from now on, from at this very moment, to be very careful about that thing, so that, we able to be born into at least a human birth where we have these 18 qualities there, If you are really good, then you will be able to, there are only two types that won't have to go through this state of Partho. First one is the one who is a very good practitioner. For that very good practitioner, they become enlightened, either in the form of a Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, or the Nirmanakaya, or born into one of the pure realms, the Buddhas. So for those people, as soon as you die, right away you're born into one of those pure realms of being enlightened. So there's no Partho for that being, for that person. The second one is, who have committed a very heinous crime, worst of heinous crime, what we call in our text, 5 heinous crimes. That's like killing one's own father, killing one's own mother, or making the blood come out of the Buddha's body. And those 5, and etc., are called the 5 heinous crimes. So once you have accumulated or done those heinous crimes, then there's no Partho for that one. So in Tibetan, we have Tsammebanga. There's no in-between, right? The in-between is a Partho. There's no in-between there for that person. Once you die, you right away born into the lower realms, in the hell's realm there. So other than that, everybody has to go through this, the Partho state. And in the rites, the rituals of the dead, when we do this liberation, the rituals, Patrul Rinpoche mentioned that it's just like steering the horse to the right path there, But actually, at that time, the steering the path in the right way is the present moment, not at the time of the death or the Partho. So in Guru Rinpoche said that, when you're doing the Partho's rites and rituals, those things where you do the empowerment on the name tag of the dead person, at that time it's very late, What that means is you have to do the practice now on so that you don't have to go through all those things. So it's very important to careful and to practice now itself, I don't really know much about talking about this Partho, The text that I relied on right now was composed by the Ngari Khenpo Tsawarinzin, and I feel that he is the most learned Khenpo in India, in India and other out of Tibet, I would say, And although he's such a learned, somehow, I don't see him, his enlightened activities that much, but I based this teaching on his the notes that he has composed about this parto, and I'm sure that those older people know about this parto already, and they have already faith and devotion in this Buddha Dharma. But especially for those younger generation, they had to be careful about maintaining and about the Buddha Dharma, the study the Buddha Dharma and practice of the Buddha Dharma is very important for our future generation, for the younger generations to know these things and to practice and to be able to keep going on these practices that we have here for all these centuries, And with this, I'm going to stop here, and with my prayers that may all of you able to have a very meaningful life and fulfill all your wishes. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
So the election Georgie
Sunam de Damje Zibani, Done Nibin, Danam, Bamji, Jaga, Naja, Balanru, Sibi, Zolan, you.
So the election Georgie Dene Treva, Kunde Tawi Meba, Chego, Nebangande, Tembe, Lonzo, Maro, Longjenzo. Mange nazo zebe rowan dize tibe go kusum yerme shaje gebo debe zudu guru kusum rinze lamen gongbe ju genzo zogjin sumgi tamba gun malu kangjen jongso tenze ba soje dojin roe lamara de she jabyo tamba namgi chewe yende nyenju tsigi medo sima khala thone tashibe komo yangburu chede dengdre pyoson choba ngandengi dusa kyaba jindir kusum rabguen demba kenata ngajur malam sokba yone kusum rabdo debe kuchaje ngando tande sowa zichikdo debden deyang jigedo pende jungye nejebo temba yuri nebada temba zembe kebona kozi genze tenyoji je sungba dara deyang kunjin jingme lingbe gesa nganchang doji zemba chembo kyabji kendu gesa renboji chogi kuyo yondeni chisoso tarbe domba nangchangju semge laba sangwa ngagi 담제 때 somden doje zemba chembo kyabra sanga china gwene sombe kusong togi zawa dang yanhagi 담제 dang domba songzang chammo chunje tula chuji mingje dar sombe 담제 gere nyamja gyonggi magyo ba sejang somma 제대로 제바 다보wo 강기 송게 연대니 temba longju kollo zandu rabdu trewe jiwo jiren dongagi rinne gyudi china 탁바동 적바 chembo Tisum lungu gongba maleba ngondo njirbe chezo zomla tenda Tewa minji dongen gekyang chenpe gowa Gongen wagyu tsokwen takban zejin jesu songwa dang Toki yondeni Genzo zokjin sumgi nyamla takdo shewa Lam chekche dang Tokegi nyamlen tarchinen debu chunye sebe nawa taru sende Chese lungu chukyu gobani ba so Soni gangi sangwa sumgi yonden 차탐모 잠양식이 제발라서 대대로 공동 제배 라면 챙여 용송 제배 구숨 계획 경으로 연기 캡다 두숨겨와 말리바 찍도 네비 랑소 미미 조와 근기 대변 직디 마지 민바세베 데메 텔레지 콜로 삼마제바 라른 누자 연기 국배 닝다 대외 민다르 제배 캡다 도제장 첨부로 오쇼바 하진 조와 연기 마제변 자시 첨부 가진 숨된기 로변 다자 남기 메도 간라 법을 하게 경고른데 도제겨보 지금 캡다 전접으로 가와 된게래도 제 림브르메나 잡지 주비 대신 계세 대진링바 군대시바 잡지 조민 실업 작바 총바미비 대배 상보 림보지 졸라 계지배 ng어주님의 탭다 촉바당 캐나다 ng어주님의 몰람 구디 속중 제배 대쇼 코르도 용네 소주엔 담아 닝가라 자데 그자 장면다 제 응원되게 소와 제주도 네바다르 파동 어저지 까지 레버를 줘베 까진 땅라지 연도 Tomra Mende Sumbu Najandi. Kusung Tudi Dan, Jada Tashi Tagegi, Dun Sudi, Medo, Chuyang Cheben Zegi Sudu, Ganshi Yura Jawe, Buzun La. Monjo Tendigi, Biwa Tenzigi Sudu, Jinguru Champion Dul Tardang, Jawa Tamji Kimba, Tongre Champion, Shudi Rambo Chendul Tardang, Gardin Konda Machiba, Jinguru Yongi, Tabo Chembo. Pande Zawe, Lama Chola, Tardang, Goro Nijanga, Jem, Ludang Longju Dusung Gewe Chodan Jeba, Tada Mimi Yeshiki Zisen Kangdugi Miwa Lana, Bulubki Soki Pune, Gajer Kondi, Gishin Yongwan Shu, Tadun Deyan Jigedo, Gese Chimbu, Shiwa Lai, Shengane, Rowe Dunge Menjimbo, Dewa Tamji Jungwene, Temba Nidang Kode, Jedi Yurin Nanjuji, Jeba Tar, Donang Gombo Choji, Sawan Sumji, Namba Taba, Rare Bela, Gyumin Kamson Temra Shubadan, Niji Shende Malu Gemin Hungi Jubadan, Geden Darsing. Dinzingi Geje Tamba, Goze Shabe Geja Tembadan, Ronam Deve, Miss Ronam Deve, Malam Purdusen Devsing. Deshin Ganji Shasan Kolo, Layan Taja Namji, Jiwen Zigendo Zona, Jine Yongwa, Ken, Suwa Zijidon Debala, Begelo. Be Rabjun Jodin, Choyo, Honda to be Sijuru, Tribu, Guru, Soji, Doji, Kutambi, Soju Gaving, Jeji Benga Juning, Tepta Sopata, Canada, Juning, Molam Gudi, Sojunine, Ni Je, Buluyan, Guja Tameda Je. Larmemba, Pandelame, Koze Radinji, Tembe Chinda, Nadan Tarwai, Chusu Nurbo Minu, Genze, Soji Gave, Temba Gayurje, Kewa Kundo, Yanda Lama, Demi Chuje Bala, Longjing, Satan Lamje Yende Rabzone, Pandelame, Gofa Nurdo Show.
Om Benzo Bumea Yi Yonzo Dova Wanje Zerji Zoji O Benzo Reji Wanje Yari Goyo Jin Gorbe Vizo Jabo Rira Yalibo Lo Zombole No Balanje Yarambenye Dalibo Ayada Ayaye Yeden Dalamjoro Rambenye Daramenye Darimboje Bazaji Dazayamba Mambo Baye Londo Galorimboje Narbarimboje Zamarimboje Lamborimboje Lamborimboje Dajorimboje Maverimboje Derejimboje Bombay Jeva Ma Java Ma Lo Ma Garama Nando Ma Dove Ma Nazo Ma Reja Ma Nyim Dawa Rimboje Do Jole Nambra Jeve Janzel Hada Meye Bajra Bunzo Mazawa Meva Denye Guye Ije Ngaye Danye Jada Bala Dumbe Gombo Yere Majebe Zume Bale Lama Dambe Kalo Zamo Lebra Dove Gajen Donraji Yundo Waji Uando Jendrovenden Jezo Jene Jinje Labdo Zo Jim Bejun Yuye Mendo Ralin Yin De Jimba De Zonji Jingdo Migde Bulwa Yin Roga Namda Yin Idara Na Mendra La Ganre Ndaya Me Goy Menjura Dorje Den La Yunzu Zo Zo Mega Zanya Dabra Zondo Do Mea Gada Jimbo Yozo Zo Deje Dorje Ngo Yozo Zo Bende Jumwe Nejeba Demba Yure Neba Dan Demba Zimbe Jew Guzi Jazin Tenjo Je Lama Koga Zongra Zowa Den Zodong Guzi Rinwara Zowa Shenlen Darjin Jebra Zowa De Lama Dan Zhuwa Mem Jinji Lo Balden Lame Guzi Denba Dan Kanya Yong La Deji Jungwa Daye Malin Zoza Ribjane Nyerdo Zanje Zalan Gubra Yo Balden Lame Nambra Darba Gye zaya loda mege ye de lebra dongwe mege ye lambe yin la yo wa ganda yanda lama da derme ji bala long je zadal bale lame go ba nyando yo jawa gwenje zanje lame Chogen demban den jedran kala ni jai jaga yang lan da je